Do you believe in ghosts? I'm not sure I do, but I've been running away, towards, and for them all my life. Nightly, the ghosts of my parents' legacy visit my anxieties more than any of my enemies ever could. Daily, I keep a close hush on all the secrets that must be kept but so desperately want to be liberated. I'm one of the few so-called heroes who actually keep his friends close and his enemies closer. I am the Batman. And I think this is the time where I let my enemies go, and the secrets lift their veils ever so slightly. But of course, this is something I must keep to myself. Hush.
Hello and welcome to episode 173 of Feathers and Foes, brought to you by the Right On Network. I'm Ashford, and along with me is Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Ashford. How's it going?
It is going quite well. I hope everyone's doing okay out there. We're in the middle of the holiday season. We are recording this November 19th, 2021. And on this episode of Feathers and Foes, we are talking about Batman 615, Hush. This is Batman 615, cover date, July 2003. However, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, this was actually on sale May 29th, 2003. It has a cover price of $2.25. Page count, including the ads, 36 pages. We have editor Robert Schreck, and this one is titled The Dead. Writer Jeff Loeb, penciler Jim Lee, on inks is Scott Williams, returning letterer Richard Starkings, and on colors, Alex Sinclair. We're looking at the cover, and of course, the same art team, pencils by Jim Lee, inker Scott Williams, and we can do the laundry list. You can get this book all kind of ways. I read this on the DC app. I've bought the trade paperback maybe like 3 times. I would give it to people and read it myself. But this was reprinted in Batman Hush Volume 2 hardcover 2004, Batman Hush Volume 2 trade paperback 2004, Absolute Batman Hush hardcover 2005. We have Batman Hush trade paperback 2009, Batman Hush Unwrapped hardcover 2011, Batman Noir Hush hardcover 2015, Batman Hush the 15th Anniversary Deluxe Edition hardcover. That must have been like $91, 2018, Batman Giant number 8 2019, and Batman The Bat and the Cat 80 Years of Romance hardcover 2020. Mark, I'm looking at this cover. What are your thoughts?
Clearly a throwback to, old Batman and Robin cartoon intro, TV intro, comics that we've seen, where, just them running with Batman in the foreground and Robin in tow. But it's, he's Nightwing now, as we get into in this comic. So, as all the Hush covers have been, this cover is significant to what's going on inside the comic, specifically with the relationship between not only Batman and Nightwing, but also with Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, and with the, Batman persona, always struggling to know when to let the Bruce Wayne persona into a working relationship. So there's a lot going on, but just exquisite cover by Jim Lee, right? We're not going to be disappointed this whole time, and we keep using the superlatives like awesome, great art, amazing, but it really is. It's this is iconic, classic stuff, classic Nightwing suit. People love Nightwing. When we've seen him in Birds of Prey previously, we're like, okay, whatever, because they get into all the, he and Barbara Gordon, Oracle in Birds of Prey, at least the Volume 1 run, whenever they're together, it's like, oh, wait, does this work? Is this a thing? And then so we're seeing Dick Grayson and Nightwing in one type of way, right? And we're mostly seeing him and how he and Barbara Gordon have a very complicated relationship. But in this book, it's just a whole different type of way. So the cover is indicative of, they're the dynamic duo for a reason. And so yeah, it's fun. I like it. I mean, I can't, I wish I had a thesaurus in front of me, so I would have to keep saying stunning, awesome, beautiful, but I don't know what else to say.
9 out of 10 doctors, historian doctors. Yeah, to me, I feel like this is like one of the definitive Hush covers. Like to give it, you're thinking of another adjective to describe this. I feel like this is definitive. Like this is some definitive Batman looking stuff, some definitive Nightwing looking stuff. And it's cool how this is modern and a throwback at the same time, but without the hipster, retro future type look. Like usually it's kind of like what the future looked like from the 70s point of view when you do like retro future stuff. But this has a modern edge to it, but it gives you nostalgia. And I think that's brilliant. Mark, this is one of my first memories of Hush. When I think of Hush, there's certain images that pop up in my mind. This is one of them. But I remember when I would first see this, I would really be distracted, and I mean that in a neutral way, by the whip that's cut across this whole thing. Did you notice that? This whip?
Yes, now.
Yeah. This I didn't notice it at first when I was reading this for the podcast, but when I would read this book and see this cover, this whip would really distract me. And again, in a neutral type way. But the blues in this, they got Goodyear blimps in the background? What's going on there, Mark?
I don't know. I was so distracted the other way where it's just like all the focus was on Batman and Robin. So I'm kind of like just looking at this again with fresh eyes, seeing that whip, seeing the water tower thing behind them, and then seeing that blimp poking out. I don't know. I don't know if that's supposed to like date Gotham or the story or anything like that. But yeah, we don't really have a Goodyear blimp around here anymore.
Yeah, I like how you said you looking at this again with fresh eyes. You can look at this cover 800 times, and every time it's a fresh eye. I don't know, like I'm gushing and I'm gaga over this cover. Maybe I don't know art. I just know what I like, and I like the tone and these blues and blacks and everything. I think it's quite splendid. So I'm going to give a synopsis of this, and Laurel, she couldn't be with us. She's feeling under the weather. We hope her a speedy and full recovery. We miss her. I feel like when I would watch the Monkees those years when Mike left, and they would say, I miss Mike. You remember that on the Monkees?
I do.
Yeah. So, yeah, I missed that Laurel's not here, but we wanted to get this recording in before the new year because we got some things planned for the Right On Network, like planning out 2022 via a bingo board. So look for that coming on this feed at the Right On Network. You'll hear some of the podcasters here like Mark, myself, Laurel, and others. But yeah, we wish Laurel the best, and we hope to hear from her soon. So I'm going to try my best at this synopsis. Here it goes. This is Batman 615. This is Feathers and Foes. Gathered at a funeral, a bat, a butler, a cat, a robin, a doctor, and Nightwing, mourning the loss of a life, yet appreciating the one he has. Bruce Wayne reminisced about the childhood cut short he once had, playing hide and seek with a young Tommy Elliott. Don't look back, yet at times we do. Bruce speaks before the crowd, reciting Walt Whitman's poem, Captain, Oh Captain. Dick Grayson whispers to Tim, "Hey, you ever heard of this guy, Tommy Elliott?" Neither one has heard of him. The world-renowned brain surgeon based in Pennsylvania, yet requested to be buried in his hometown and the same grave site of his parents. As Bruce Wayne recites the lines to Captain, Oh Captain, his favorite poem according to Dr. Leslie Tompkins, his mind wanders, thinking of when he started training and mastering his craft while losing touch with Tommy. Upon his return, he learned that Tommy became quite as successful at being a surgeon, perhaps wanting to surpass Dr. Thomas Wayne. After the funeral, Bruce returns to detective mode, questioning everything. Perhaps his senses were belying the categorical facts. Had this all been staged? Like a play? A setup? Socially engineered in some way? Just a little too perfect? Was he meant to see what he was meant to see? Was he meant to hear what he had heard? And folks, when Batman is in the Batcave working the investigation, he has the hologram Minority Report set up. In wonderful carnival background-having fashion, Nightwing swoops down, concerned about his mentor, his friend. Dick, with his excellent interpersonal skills, raps with Batman. Proud of him for not shutting himself in, yet opening himself up to love. Dick basically tells Batman to tell her all about it. Before breaking into the Billy Joel number, Oracle cracks wise on their male bonding. Riddler is on the loose with a joke. Nope, that's the Joker. He has a riddle. What has 4 wheels, costs $11 million, and flies? Batman and Nightwing race to one of the many Batmobiles, zooming down the freeway, taking the exit towards Sheldon Park and Apparel Expressway. Spotting the Riddler's getaway armored truck, the Batmobile produces a battering ram, smashing into the vehicle of Edward Enigma, a.k.a. the Riddler. The Riddler and his thugs were not killed, so don't worry. Right on cue, each henchman escapes on foot, seeking refuge for a criminal. Wrong. Nightwing is there, kicking butt in his graceful, elegant fashion. I'm serious, go back and read the panels. As Nightwing makes short work of the thugs, Batman can't help but admire what a wonderful man Dick Grayson turned out to be, outmeasuring his trauma instead of succumbing to it, going a different route, rising out of the tragedy by inspiring others through example and his interpersonal skills, rather than by intimidation and manipulation. Sorry, a bit of an editorial there. As Nightwing beats the henchmen into submission, as Batman watches like a proud dad reliving his glory days through the accomplishment of his offspring, the Riddler escapes into the sewers with an armful of riches. As he pulls his best Ninja Turtle impression by peeking out of the manhole, the Riddler is caught. Whoops. Caught by the Batman. Inspecting the getaway vehicle armored truck further, Batman discovers ash, which may have come from the Lazarus Pit. Later that night, 2 reveals, 2 different scenes, 2 different reactions. At Arkham Asylum, we discover that the bandaged figure was a reconstructed Harvey Dent. The Joker is not impressed. At the Gotham City Zoo, Catwoman is approached by the Batman. Believe it or not, he unveils his cowl, allowing Catwoman into his life and letting her know he knows about hers. Right after this short break, we will return to talk about Batman. Hush. Oh, I forgot to put the effect on that.
Felony offender, demented, brain cemented, mixed in the blender, illusion, mass confusion, question mark, clues it, what, where, why, who's it, quiz, time to ask yourself who it is, shiesty PLO, underhanded biz, invaded brothers' ways, can I live, corrupted, bringing all the misery and suffering, pain you couldn't cure with the buffering, rotating, ridiculous, rapid fire riddle, bat get trapped in the middle of the red line.
Attention all personnel. New from the Fire and Water Podcast Network, it's MASHcast. Hosted by MASH megafan Rob Kelly and a rotating cast of VIPs, MASHcast analyzes, episode by episode, the greatest television series of all time, MASH. Find MASHcast on fireandwaterpodcast.com.
Jocularity!
Hey, welcome back to Feathers and Foes, episode 173. Mark and myself, Ashford, we're sitting here talking about Batman 615. This one's titled The Dead. Now, Mark, we can start wherever we want, but I thought maybe we should just go straight to, like, the reveal. You want to do that, or do you want to go at the beginning and start with the funeral?
Oh, no, let's go reveal. Go for it.
Okay, so at the end of this, Batman, he undoes he takes off the cowl and he lets Catwoman know, hey, Bruce Wayne and Batman are one of the same. What did you think about that, Mark?
So I was talking about, the cover, and I ended up more talking about the story inside and how it kind of, the cover is sort of like a synopsis for the reader of what's about to happen, and it's going to be some very heavy but also light, if that makes sense, relationship stuff between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, and coincidentally Batman and Robin, and specifically the Robin that becomes Nightwing, right? So during this whole thing, leading up to that reveal, basically Nightwing has told Bruce, like, hey, you're still awful, don't get me wrong, you're still a Moody Judy and all that, but like, you're not as horrible normal. What's going on? You're dating Catwoman, aren't you? And that was kind of wild, because he's like, word on the street is you're dating Catwoman, and then he rattles off all this advice, and then they do the typical Batman thing where it's like, yes, you were right before, stay out of my business. So he was like being, you thought maybe he was opening up, but he wasn't. He was just going to stay the closed down, emotionally void Batman, with his lifetime sidekick trying to pry and get some juicy gossip. But Nightwing knew, I think, that there was just some vibe about Batman, and we started seeing Batman in a whole new light in this miniseries, or maxi series, I guess, since it went for like the span of a year within the Batman comics in 2003 here. And it kind of opened up my eyes seeing him in a new type of way, but he was doing the detective work stuff. Like, if you've seen Sherlock Holmes with Cumberbatch, pre Doctor Strange Benedict Cumberbatch, and he does like the
Minority Report,
the inner dialogue. Yeah, that too. I mean, the inner dialogue breakdown, any character. I really like the way the Cumberbatch did that as Sherlock Holmes, and we see Batman do that, but he's doing that almost in like when he does it throughout this book, and he's talking about his sort of like the awakening of his inner feelings towards Selina. Like, oh man, wait, Batman loves Catwoman, which means Bruce Wayne loves Selina, and is this okay? And how do we proceed? It's almost like watching an AI become self-aware, because he's so cold and calculating. Because we've seen him be cold and calculating during the fight with Killer Croc, during the fight with Harley Quinn at the opera, and then we're getting the snippets of. It really does seem like a robot coming to life, like the Tin Man getting the heart, right? To me it does, because I'm on the outside looking in at this thing, not having read a whole lot of Batman solo stuff, believe it or not. And I keep talking about how whenever he shows up in Birds of Prey, like any incarnation we've done, whether it's the Benson sisters Batgirl and the Birds of Prey or Volume 1, he shows up as a grumpy uncle, right? Well, this is like a whole new thing. So I could also call, instead of Batman Hush, I could also call this Batman Awakenings, because it's like, oh, he's human. This is why people like Batman, and I've said that several times also. So by the time we get to the end, and he is like lifting up the cowl as he's talking, and it's juxtaposed with Hush visiting Joker in Arkham Asylum and undoing his bandages, while Joker is getting the whole spill from him about, who he is and what he's doing and why. Batman is giving Catwoman the 411 about, hey, like, here's the deal, I'm doing this. He doesn't ever pause to go, hey, do you want to know my secret identity? Should we do this? Are we doing this? Are we going cowl off? Are we going mask off? Like, he's doing it and not stopping, and he's like, dictating why he's doing it. And she's like, whoa, you have a bat family, and I know that that's already a big balancing act, and I don't want to be the one to like kind of screw up that whole dynamic you have going on there. And if you being successful at being Batman with your Bat family that you already have, if that's contingent on you not letting me in on this one, I'm going to let that ride for a while. But he's already made his decision, which I don't know if that was, now that I think about it, that's a pretty big burden for Selena Kyle, right? So it's kind of interesting that he doesn't really give her much room to go, whoa, I don't want to see you without your mask on. And he just does it. So it kind of, it's at the end of the book, but it's not really shocking because people kept talking about it and Nightwing kept talking about it, and almost to like an incessant point in that scene where they're riding in the Batmobile down the freeway, and he's like basically almost giggling about wanting all the gossip about it. But I thought it was really well done, and it was something that needed to happen because that build-up's been there. We talked about the kiss early on in the storyline, and then all of the inner mechanical thinking about him, thinking like 9 types of different outcomes for if he tells her, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne, let's do this or whatever. So there's a lot going on, and I think they pulled it off.
I think they pulled it off as well. It's interesting that you mention, hey, I've been reading this Batman book, and it's one of the first times I've really paid attention to like one of his solo works, right? And how you feel like, oh, this is a more opened up Batman. I think older fans still think this is a closed off Batman. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I come from the Batman, the animated series, Lurking in the Shadows, and then of course all the Bat family stuff you and I have covered and that you suggested for me to read. Grumpy Uncle is the best. That's a favorable comment for me to say, what do you think of Batman? That's favorable because there's been times in those books where I'm like, get out of here. I don't want to see you around. You're a jerk. Get out of here. So to me, this is like Hush is humanizing Batman to me.
Yeah. And I think so too. I just think there's some fans of like 70s and 80s Batman that might read this and still think he's being closed off. I don't hold that opinion. I think it's interesting where at the beginning, Batman, when he's doing his figurings and he's going like, wait a minute. What do you think about when he immediately jumps to, do you think it's paranoia? I mean, he may be right, but when he's saying, I saw what they wanted me to see. I heard what they wanted me to hear. Look, I wanted to kill the Joker. He throughout this, he is saying, wait a minute. I had an experience with Tyre on the Batmobile before. I had an experience in an alley. Am I being manipulated? What do you think about Batman like doing 3-dimensional chess?
Oh no, that's a big theme in this because he keeps, even when he had caught up to the Riddler, he keeps throwing it back to, hey, Poison Ivy was being manipulated, and then in turn she was manipulating people, and it was going all the way up the chain to Superman, and then Killer Croc was acting weird even for Killer Croc. So he's just basically drawing the conclusion like, oh shoot, if all of those people are being manipulated, so am I. So no, I think that was a natural conclusion for him to come to. I don't think it was paranoia because, again, as a reader, I'm loving this because they're taking the Rogues Gallery and breaking it down and giving them all standalone issues. But this issue, probably more than any other issue, the real breakdown comes in the form of this comic is called Batman, but this is about Bruce Wayne. And to me, that was the real, like, Nightwing's in it, yes. Focal point, sure. But we're getting all of that perspective from inside the cowl. And it's like inside the cowl is Bruce Wayne waiting to pop out of there. And so when he pulls off his mask at the end, it's like, this was about Bruce Wayne the whole time. Just like the Harley Quinn issue was about Harley Quinn, the Killer Croc issue was about Killer Croc, so on and so forth. But I think that was a very natural conclusion, because he's already, keeps reiterating Killer Croc was not right. Harley Quinn's being manipulated. Joker's being manipulated. Joker didn't do this. Like, someone is pulling all the strings. Oh, wait, if someone's pulling all the strings, that means they're pulling my strings too. So no, I thought that was like a very natural conclusion for him to make.
I love this kind of Batman. Some might say that it's Bat God, but I love Batman knowing, wait a minute, through my highly deductive reasoning skills, I can deduce I've been mind wiped. Like, that's happened before, where Batman deduced, wait a minute, someone mind wiped me. I think I like the fact that I'm such a highly skilled detective. I can deduce that I think I just got retconned. I love it. I love it. I eat it up with a spoon. I buy it. I say that's his superpower. So I enjoy that kind of stuff. And also at the beginning of Hush, like whenever this first started, it started talking about like him getting older. And it seemed like he started talking about mortality. And then that led to, you know what? Why am I messing around? Let me reveal myself to Selina Kyle by letting her know that Batman and Bruce Wayne are one and the same. So I think that's another reason why it's not like this was issue 1 of Hush and he did this. It has been this progression, right?
Oh, yes.
It has been this slow layering of the onion or whatever. Mark?
Oh no, I mean, I really do. I'm not trying to take extra jabs at Batman's persona or personality, but I really do view it as like, because when I say robot, I mean that in the highest compliment. Like when I made the comparison to the BBC version of Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch, I was being complimentary in that this sort of reads like that, like those awesome scenes where everything is broken down and he like solves this like crazy crime and tells you exactly how it happened, and they're using interesting visual effects and film editing to do so. And it's the same type of thing. It's like, but the difference, the catch is he is being humanized through this relationship with Selina Kyle, which he really wants, and he's wondering, is it okay to let Bruce Wayne out of this costume? Like almost like Batman is in control of both of their souls, almost in the same way. If I know you and I are watching Doom Patrol and we love it, but Matt Bomer doing like this incredible job on there, where it's like he's having to live with that spirit inside of him, and can they coexist, and is it okay, and the spirit like at some point wanting to take ownership of that body, and like how do you do this, and it, if you're a Marvel person, then you can think of the symbiote and Eddie Brock, aka Venom, where it's like they found each other out of convenience, but now they're bound by necessity. So I think that it's, if you want to consider the cape and cowl like the symbiote, and it's overtaken Bruce Wayne, and he's wondering like, hey, am I allowed to live a normal life and be in a relationship with Selina Kyle? Can I do that? But Ashford, real quick, just back to the whole kind of realization he's having before that, when they captured the Riddler. The one thing I wanted to kind of read from the book was when Batman's standing over the Riddler, and then he says this: I think about Edward Nygma and the life that he had as the Riddler, where once his obsessive need to leave riddles and clues would confound me, everything about him has become routine. I half expected him to have retired by now. Someone has taken the time to infiltrate the lives of Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, Harley Quinn, and even the Joker. And yet the Riddler has apparently been ignored. An armored car robbery, even with $11 million in cash, is exactly the sort of crime the Riddler has always taken on. And the riddle, by his standards, was amateurish. Why was he ignored? Was he somehow undeserving, or knowingly or otherwise, was he himself intended to be the riddle? That is like next level stuff going on. I mean, and the reason half the reason I read that was just to kind of re-articulate what I was talking about how that's the reason he comes to that conclusion that he's being played, is because as he basically mentioned every issue of Hush and what's been going on. Killer Croc, dude, I know you didn't kidnap that kid under your own volition. Harley Quinn, I know you didn't go after this opera and all these rich people under your own volition. The Joker, you're wild, but somehow someone's taming you. Like, what is going on? So it was just the natural conclusion.
Okay, Mark, I like what you just did there. Also, I keep reiterating, I think this is a nice, with Double Dutch, it's like, okay, when's a good time to jump in? I'm not saying this is the definitive way to jump into Batman, but I like what you just said there, where Batman didn't take any of this on face value. So he's like, wait a minute. I think someone on the outskirts, they would look at what the Killer Croc's action and go like, well, I mean, it's a Killer Croc. He would do something like that. But no, let me look at the nuance of this. This isn't how he would behave. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. So just to put on my conspiracy hat, you click on Netflix and they tell you like, hey, these are the top 5 rated things. And I'm like, well, are they? You keep your rating system a secret. Am I being socially engineered into this one that's ranked number 3 or number 2 or number 1? I would have never watched it. But now that you put that it was the number 1 watched thing, and I don't want to be left out of conversations, I'm going to watch it. Did you just engineer me? Am I seeing what I'm supposed to see? Am I hearing what I'm supposed to hear? And when I read this Batman doing that, that's what I'm thinking of. Where Batman was like, whoa, who's ever orchestrating this almost broke my code and choked the Joker. So Batman should kill the Joker. Yeah, probably. But I really want that to be my idea to kill him. But now I just realized I got played. Someone played me like a fiddle to try to kill the Joker, and I almost walked into it. But one of the things Selena Kyle mentioned was, hey dude, you got a lot of wires and I don't want to trip you up. You got a lot of connections. So for Batman, you're being such this loner, dude, your friends and enemies, they're so close from a distance, no one can tell who is who. You're about to choke the Joker. And then your friend Jim Gordon popped up. Thank goodness he did. Man, you got friends in need, Batman. Nightwing pops up out of nowhere. And the cool thing about that is the storyline before this, Nightwing and Batman kind of had a fist fight. So this was an even stronger scene because Nightwing is like, okay, let's kind of put that behind us. Dude, you're walking differently. I like the fact that, one of your close friends passed away and you didn't go into recluse mode. And I can tell that you're opening yourself up to perhaps love. And, don't shut that down. Go ahead and go for it. And then, he mentioned even go a step further. Don't do one of those things where you just know me as Batman. Or you just know me as Bruce Wayne. Give both. Wow, you got... And then even Barbara Gordon Oracle is like, dudes, I don't mean to disrupt your bromance here or your bro time, but I can hear everything, right? And so, wow, you got the Oracle to help you out. So Batman, he has a gallery of people to help him out. So we usually think of Superman as he has the clubhouse and he's a friend to everyone, and Batman's the loner. But dude, they do these on Twitter and everywhere else on the covers of comic books. They show that Bat Family, you got to do the centerfold fold to show all of them because the Bat Family's so huge. So he's definitely not a loner. And they're actually embracing that. They're embracing Bat Family and that he is trying to mentor them and he's trying to be the patriarch there. So that's pretty cool. But, yeah, I like the fact that Catwoman's like, should I get involved with you? Should I, is this a good idea? And like you mentioned, how he didn't give her a chance to go, hey, are we doing this? Should I show you that I'm Bruce Wayne? Talk about the funeral. Dr. Leslie Tompkins was there, as well as Selena Kyle. Did they already know Tommy Elliott? What was up with that?
I mean, I think they run in that circle. We saw them interact at the opera, right? And so I think that they just run in that upper echelon of Gotham circle. But, Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne also have a working relationship too. And so, I mean, they've known each other for, since, I'm like I said, like a lot of my knowledge comes from Batman animated series, but they're always at like the high end parties together and stuff. So I'm not exactly sure. I know that Selena Kyle mentions Tommy Elliott, or something about him, maybe like knowing him in passing, or I know him the same way I know Bruce Wayne, or what have you. But it's obviously, someone asked Dick Grayson about it, and they're like, have you ever really heard of this dude? Like, all of a sudden we're hearing like how great of friends they were, and they were inseparable, in their grade school years, but have you ever really heard of this dude? And Nightwing was just like, I mean, kind of, not really. He doesn't really tell me anything.
So, okay, yeah, so it was Dick Grayson and Tim Drake there,
yeah,
the current Robin. And I like that conversation where it was kind of a comment for the reader who was kind of thinking that, like, hey, have we ever heard of this guy? And Dick Grayson's like, well, I never heard of him. But then again, when I'm with Bruce Wayne and or Batman, I'm not going, tell me about your childhood. He's not a tell me about your childhood type dude. So I remember one time I was working at a job, and it was a husband and wife that worked at the place. They worked at the same place. They took separate cars. No, that was a joke. I don't know if they did or not. But I remember one time, I guess the wife was someone a lot of the people didn't like. And someone asked, like, hey, has he ever told you about, like, how he fell in love with his wife? I'm like, no, dude, we're not talking about that. And I'm not trying to be like a male toxic or whatever, but like, no, when I'm with this person one-on-one, or is me and the person with 5 other people, I never go, and yeah, tell me about how you met your wife. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. So I could just see Dick Grayson, because I'm kind of standing firm on the, you never know when you find out something new about someone. So the fact that I was like, well, I never heard of this Tommy dude. I think if you got to spend 5 hours with Batman in real life, you wouldn't go and tell me about that time when you were 9 years old. But I think there's still room for us to learn things about Batman, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm pretty sure Alfred taught Batman or Bruce Wayne arithmetic, science, geography, philosophy. But every once in a while, he had a tutor. Well, what tutor? Don't know, because they never told us. But you could write that in there. So to me, I still think there's layers of Batman that you could write in there. And also, when it comes to the like ongoing sagas, like the Bible, they have the Old Testament and then the New Testament. And it's finite. Like 500 years didn't go by, and it's like, and there's another one. And there's another one. So like, I've asked this before. You mentioned Sherlock Holmes, Sir Conan Doyle. He did like a series of stories, but not like how comic books have had a long run, right? So if I can see you going like, well, there's only 10 stories, so that's what it is. There's nothing in between. But with comic books, with it being so, I mean, it's trying to go towards infinity, I think every once in a while inserting a layer about, and, oh, you didn't know? This character was right-handed. They had an accident. They had to learn with their left hand. Well, I never heard about that. But we've done 80 years of storytelling. We could keep redoing the same thing and make those same people happy. But it's like, come on, let us just add another layer. So that's all I'm going to say on that. That's why I still buy the we never heard of Tommy Elliott. But then again, maybe that's manipulation. I don't know. Who knows? But I buy the I worked with Bruce Wayne. He trained me. We spent hours and hours of training. And I'm going to tell you something. When you're training with Bruce Wayne, you're trying to keep up. You're trying to you're trying not to get criticized. You're trying to really do your best. You never once think, what do you want for Christmas? You never once think, tell me about your childhood, man. That never comes up. It never came up. It never came up. Tell me about your childhood. I knew this guy named Tommy Elliott, and one time I took a crack at his green jewel thing that he had, and it belonged to his mom, and he beat me up over it.
No water cooler talk, no smoke breaks, no.
Yeah.
No.
And let me tell you something. When Batman did tell me about Tommy Elliott, but it was such a weird situation, I forgot about it. Because it was weird. He told me about a childhood thing, and it was weird.
Yeah.
And I don't want to touch a childhood thing. The dude's traumatized about his parents being killed in front of him. Like Nightwing, I say in the synopsis, he has interpersonal skills. He's a good leader because of in spite of the tragedy. Where Batman, he works a certain way because of the tragedy. So, dude, you mean tell me you spent all this time with Batman and his childhood never came up? Dude, the guy is beating people to a pulp and being not fun around others because of the childhood trauma. So, dude, I avoid talking about his childhood like the plague. Hence, he might have a friend you never heard of.
Hey, just to go...
Same thing.
And just for me to go all in on this, robot Batman awakening and letting Bruce Wayne out, Batman never knew no Tommy Elliott. Bruce Wayne knew Tommy Elliott. So, you're getting trained by Batman. You ain't getting trained by Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And also, dude, Jesus pop up on the scene. We see some childhood stuff and like 33 years old. But like, what happened at like 21? So, this is cool stuff. I like this. This is cool stuff. And also, Dr. Leslie Tompkins knew about Tommy, and she probably didn't want to go to that funeral alone. And because Selena Kyle is a good one, a good friend, she accompanied Dr. Leslie Tompkins, and I like that. So before we started recording, Mark, the two of us, we were talking about, like, hey, Nightwing was likable in this. You want to expand on that?
Well, I think I rambled on about it before when talking about, the same way that Batman was inserted and interpreted into the Birds of Prey story arcs that we've done. Likewise, so was Nightwing. I mean, there was the storyline that was a 4-parter that went in between, is both in the Birds of Prey monthly as well as the Nightwing series at the time. And so he was in that, but it was just sort of like every time he would show up, it was like, oh, they would end up, there's the famous issue number 8 of Birds of Prey, right? Where they like go on the date and they have like the beautiful cover and it's, it's amazing. It's great. And it's like, oh, they're the perfect couple. And then like something happens and they're like, oh yeah, wait, this is why we never worked out. So it's just sort of like that. He pops in, oh yeah, we really get along well, huh? Oh wait, no, we not really. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is why we don't get along, or this is why we'll never work out, or just simply like, oh, it's complicated, I'm gonna bounce off. So when you're reading Birds of Prey, you're obviously like hopefully pro Barbara Gordon, pro Oracle, and that's kind of whose side you take, but you're only getting one side of the story. So when you're seeing Nightwing come in and kind of be like light and jovial, and there's no chance of him disappointing Barbara Gordon this episode, this issue, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this dude's like likable dude and he's trying to help, and he really does have Bruce Wayne and Batman's best interest at heart. And there's only a handful of people in the world that can do that. because there's only a handful of people in the world that know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but then even half of them probably like Batman more than Bruce Wayne or vice versa. I think Dick Grayson has an equal admiration for both. I think he has an admiration for the millionaire who brought him in off the street after that horrible tragedy to his parents, and raised him and gave him a roof over his head, and also for the crazy dude that dresses up like a bat at night and takes out crime in Gotham to avenge his parents, which he can never do. So it's just like this endless cycle, and I think he understands like the importance of both personas and the challenge of them only having one body and one brain and one heart that's constantly at battle. I mean, that's the real battle for the cow, is between Batman and Bruce Wayne. That's the real one, right? So I think in this you just see him from a different light, and like I said, kind of tongue in cheekly, but I knew that he's not going to disappoint Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, or Oracle in this issue, so maybe there was less at stake for me, and I was able to open my eyes and go, oh, okay, he's a pretty cool dude.
And again, I keep talking about like how this Batman Hush, even though I've read Batman stories before this, but me really going, okay, now I'm an adult, my frontal lobe is pretty much kind of fully formed a little bit, and I'm sitting here going like, let me just read. This is when I got it. Like Batman Hush, Batman No Man's Land, that's when I like, okay, I get it. I got it, right? Like a version of Batman. Now, talking about Nightwing, I love Nightwing. And this could have been, if I remember correctly, this could have been the start, because I like how he comes off in this. He comes off like a favorite son returning back home that everyone just loves. Is not Ordinary People. What's the one where Robert Redford directed it?
No, that's right. Ordinary People.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one where like a favorite son died?
Yes.
And it's like how they all react
Yes.
to it? Okay, I gotta watch that movie, because I watched Lions and Lambs, and people are like, "Oh, the way he directed that, the way it moved, is the same way as this." But like, yeah, Nightwing has those vibes, and also, if Batman can succeed and rock, and no one else will benefit from it. Nightwing is one where, if Nightwing succeeds, other boats can rise off its tides, or whatever. If I'm using that metaphor correctly. You gotta think, Batman, a solo artist, all this stuff, he's doing this thing solo, and then someone goes like, man, he needs someone to talk to. We need to give him a Watson. What if he had a Robin? Well, like now we're like, well, of course, right? But I think if I were alive at that time when they first introduced Robin, I would have thought, dude, what is this? You introducing a kid to him, he got a sidekick. This dude's alone, he does his own thing. Why he needs a sidekick? Bam, I would have been on the wrong side of history on that one. Then, okay, Robin is around. We like him, all this stuff. And then it's like, hey, what if Robin was a leader of like a group like the Teen Titans? Come on, man, a group of teenagers? Get real. Get out of here. Boom, that works out. I've been on the wrong side of history of that one. Hey, what if we did this thing where Nightwing gets older? Like he's older, right? And he like becomes like a good leader. Like he has good interpersonal skills. He's talking to people, all this stuff. And they're a little older. They're the Titans. Man, come on, man. Like, you're aging the characters? You can't do that. What are you talking about? Boom, wrong side of history on that one. And then, hey, I want to go my own way, right? Not like that. I want to, like, I don't want to be under your shadow, Batman. I'm Robin. I want to do my own thing. I'm going to graduate. Superman has this, it's like some mythos from Krypton, and one of the characters' name is Nightwing. I'm not going to take on a moniker from Batman. I admire Superman. He's my hero. Like, Batman, I see you all the time. Superman, I like this dude. Yeah, I'm going to call myself Nightwing off this story Superman told me. I'm Nightwing now. I'm going my own way. Boom, Nightwing Adventures. Come on, man. Him graduating out of the Robin suit and becoming something else, Nightwing? Give me a break. Boom, I'm on the wrong side of history of that.
And also, just real quick, we had that moment in the book where Batman actually put some respect on his name, because he told Selena Kyle, like, hey, someone told me that, you know, I'm handling all this Tommy Elliott stuff because I got, you know, you in my corner, or I'm excited about the possibility of us, so I'm handling this okay. And she's like, oh, I have a fan. Was it the big bird or the little bird? And he was like, it's Nightwing.
Yeah, he sure did. He said Nightwing was the first person I ever told that, like, Batman and Bruce Wayne are one and the same. He said that in this issue 6115, Batman.
Yeah.
Dude, this, yeah. So, yeah, Nightwing is freaking cool. And I think this is when I went and read all the Chuck Dixon stuff. And I'm talking like probably like issues 1 through 83. Back in the early 2000s, I was having a ball and a biscuit reading Nightwing. Even when he became Nightwing at night and a police officer in daytime, I was eating that up as well. I was all into Dick Grayson. And now I feel like Tom Taylor is writing a good freaking Nightwing now. And I just feel like if more people win, if Nightwing wins, like Batman can win and be, you know, and be on his own. Like, dude, I'm doing these Batman movies and the rest of DC movies aren't doing well, but it don't matter. Batman, I'm by myself over here. Batman. But I feel like when Nightwing, when he rises, everyone rises. And I like what they're doing here. Like you mentioned, they're crystallizing it so you can sniff it. So like all these characters, Killer Croc to the Riddler, Nightwing to Oracle, Catwoman to Dr. Leslie Tompkins, you're getting this Batverse in a digestible way. Like it's not too dense. It's not too convoluted. Like this feels like when I first watched episode 7 of the Star Wars movie, it was the first time where I read that scrolling scroll and I understood it. I was like, oh, I followed it. They crystallized it so I can sniff it. So yeah, this, I'm loving it. I think this, I love how this is. Some of it's kind of sparsed out, if I'm saying that correctly. But other than that, it's really fun. It's fun, man. It's a good time. And it's the arts. I mean, come on. When Nightwing, and he pops up, there's this little Spider-Man impression, but like a circus folk, where he's coming down from the ceiling of the Batcave, and he's descending down like, hey, Batman, what's up? I love it. I freaking love this, dude. So one of the memories that's one of the images that's burned into my memory as far as like, oh, Hush, is when Harvey Dent, I still believe in Harvey Dent, when he's unwrapping himself and the Joker's like, oh, it's you. That face that the Joker makes, when I think of Hush, I think of that as well. What'd you think about, like, okay, so Two-Face in this? What's the deal?
I thought it was very interesting that they're doing that juxtaposition between Hush revealing his face to Joker while Batman is very quickly and somewhat abruptly, as we discussed, like removing his cowl while he's like pouring his heart out to Selena Kyle. So that kind of like threw me off because the dialogue's going back and forth too, and you know that you probably missed a few sentences from each conversation because they're cutting, so you don't know exactly what Batman is saying as the Joker is, you know, seeing this person enter his room. And, you know, at the same time, Batman's, you know, approaching Selena Kyle at the zoo. They're like watching this tiger, and then it just keeps cutting back and forth. And he just starts, you know, unwrapping the bandages. Joker's like, oh, I know that voice. And then he's like, you broke into my home one Christmas and beat me up in front of my wife. And the Joker's like, oh, this isn't going to turn out to be a good surprise for me, is it? So, I mean, it's just, you know, they're interjecting the whole, like, Joker's still goofing around, but being like, what is going on here? So we clearly know from this that Joker was being manipulated. So, like, the ultimate manipulator in the Batman Rogues Gallery was being manipulated because he didn't see this coming. And he's like, Two-Face, and he's just like, he has this, like, almost grumpy, like, mad face about it. Like, yeah, and it's just like his day was ruined. Like,
he looked like a grumpy aunt.
He did, and he was already in Arkham Asylum for, as Nightwing said, the 79th time or whatever, tongue-in-cheekly. But Yeah, and then you just have that juxtaposed with, Catwoman was just like shocked, but then ultimately they're both happy. You can't put the cow back on, like, the bat's out of the bag, so to speak. And, conversely, Joker's just like grabbing his face going, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
He's like, looks like he's about to poke his eyes out. He's like, I do not want to deal with this right now.
Yeah. I'm going to be your lawyer.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about... I have some final thoughts. Any final thoughts about Batman Hush,
Well, just
the Dead?
I think you had pointed out to me, because there was so much going on, and I was so, transfixed on how the issue was ending with that juxtaposition scene, which I think is really clever. And also, it's almost like that. It was a brave choice, because the Batman Catwoman relationship is really the backbone of this story. And I don't really, like I said, like I've got Joker fatigue, and then, not really knowing who Hush is or what's going on with that. I was like, oh, that was kind of interesting that they kind of pulled attention away from the big Batman, Catwoman, Bruce Wayne, Selina Kyle reveal by chopping it up and, for lack of a better word, letting them share the page with those two, them being... letting Joker and Two-Face, which was Hush, share the page in such a what, I mean, that could have been a splash page and we wouldn't have blinked, right? Like Batman taking off his cowl, that could have been a splash page, and it wasn't. Like, it's a split screen, and it's like, wow, was the Hush reveal to Joker as big as the Batman reveal to Catwoman that he's Bruce Wayne? I guess we'll have to wait and see. And the only other thing was something you pointed out. So with all that going on, I didn't, Riddler was an afterthought, and it's very interesting that Batman said, was the fact that he made a bad riddle. I used to be obsessed with this dude. This dude could really get my goat whenever he wanted. Like, he would throw me for loops, and he was like this mad, diabolical genius. Now he's just sad and telling like jokes that come off Laffy Taffy rappers, and I don't care anymore. But wait a minute. Is that the riddle? Is the riddle, like, is this dude trying to tell me something by not telling me anything? And when he's inspecting that money truck that they caught Riddler at, he's like, oh, wait a minute. This is dust from the Lazarus Pit. Whoa. How does Batman know, oh, this is dust from the Lazarus Pit? So I don't know anything about dust from the Lazarus Pit. He's
had adventures.
I know. I understand that. And we've seen the whole Black Canary saga, Lazarus Pit, and the Birds of Prey run. Crazy stuff, right? And I've seen it on Arrow, the CW Arrowverse and all that. But it's to me, dust is dust unless it's like glitter dust or something. Like, I would have to know more about the Lazarus Pit to know, can Batman really like put his finger on it and go, oh yeah, this is from the Lazarus Pit? I mean, unless it has a smell
and taste
smell
test.
or taste, yeah. But anyway,
yeah.
So that throws a whole new thing. Hey, was Riddler off his game because someone killed him, brought him to life, and now he's half himself? Or what? Or is this Hush? Was he brought back to life? What's going on? The
walrus was Paul.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So those are my final thoughts on that. There's a lot going on. Now the Lazarus Pit and all that mysticism is going to come into play. There's obviously, Bruce Wayne's past is being really preyed upon here, and he knows it, and he knows like he's being manipulated. So he's going to be on guard with his emotions as Batman, while he's letting his emotions be unguarded as Bruce Wayne for Selina Kyle. So this whole dynamic with Bruce Wayne, it might end up that Hush is really about Batman versus Bruce Wayne, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, here's some things. One, Batman in Batman No Man's Land, which came out like late 90s, early 2000s, he was going to reveal himself to James Gordon. And when he took off the cowl, James Gordon disclosed his eyes and was like, nah, I think it's best that let's just keep this going, right? Like, I might know who you are or whatever, but let's do the Sheryl Crow. Lie to me, I promise I'll believe. Lie to me, but don't leave me. So I'm sorry to do that, guys, but so we've seen him do this before, in dire circumstances, I guess. I like this one part where Batman was admiring Nightwing, like, some might say you were wrong for taking this child and raising him in this situation. But, through tragedy, I turned to darkness. Nightwing, he kind of turned to light. He goes, but I've learned that Dick wasn't like me. He didn't come from a world of privilege. He was a performer, gifted in that way. I was like, I just like, yeah, like you said, he put props on Nightwing's name through there. I love this one panel. I'm looking at it on my phone, so it may be illuminated a little bit more. But when the Riddler is trying to poke his head out of the manhole cover and the lights coming in, freaking awesome. Just freaking awesome. Let's see right here. It's been suggested that I'm handling it well because I have you in my life. I have a fan. Is it the little bird or the bigger bird? I like that. He goes, Nightwing. All right, it's Nightwing. Get it right, lady. He didn't say that. He says, for a loner, you certainly have yourself a lot of strings. Nightwing, Robin, Oracle, Huntress, Batgirl. I just don't want to be the one string that trips you up. And he goes, you won't. So that means she's really thinking about it too, where, is there room for me? So I thought that was some good writing there. What do you think?
On which part?
Where, where Catwoman is like, do you really need me in your life?
Yeah, no, we were talking about that before, where it's like, I really don't want to be the one to mess this up. Like, you have your Bat family, you've handpicked these people mechanically and sometimes maniacally to like serve the purpose as both to serve the purpose as Batman and protect Gotham. And I'm afraid I'm gonna be like the person where it's like you let in one too many people, and I don't know if I want that responsibility, but. He didn't really give her a chance, as we stated. Like, he's taking the cowl off. Like, she can't even go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, he's already doing it. Like, it's already done pretty much. And so, yeah. Look, this is awesome, dude. This is awesome, and I can't wait to see how this ends.
Wow, man. What do you think about... we probably mentioned it before, but what do you think about this version of Catwoman's outfit?
Oh, it's awesome. This is fantastic. All the art is fantastic. The characters' styles, all of the Rogues Gallery obviously has so many different just iterations that there's so much to choose from. But no, I think everything has been spot on for me so far.
Nightwing, he goes, word under the street is that you're dating Catwoman. Is this the criminal community? Is this the superhero community? Nightwing, where did you hear this from? Like, we saw Batman and Catwoman kissing on a rooftop. Like, really? But, people talk. There's this one part where they're like, hey, Oracle is like, it seemed like kind of like a Marvel movie where it's like, you still kept the speaker on, right? And it's like, aha, little jokes there. And Oracle is like, hey, I can hear you guys. Remember, I'm the Oracle? Nightwing, before you came in here, Batman was doing all the audio off, computer off. And he was doing because Minority Report came out in 2002. This came out in 2003. He had all the Minority Report holograms and all this stuff. And so she's like, dude, I can hear you guys. That was a good gag. But when they go, oh, hey, Nightwing, Riddler's out there causing havoc, running amok. So they take off. He goes, let's go to the car. And Nightwing goes, which one? And when you're reading this on panel-to-panel mode, when you swipe to the left, it zooms out. You see the whole Batcave. It's like, man, this is freaking cool. And when they're on the highway and they're talking about Catwoman, the two guys sitting there doing the talk. And when they are about to exit, it says Sheldon Park and Aparo Expressway. So I was like, oh, that's a nod to Jim Aparo. They did some cool Batman arts. Did some cool Aquaman art. But yeah, definitely we talk about that on the Right On Network with Jim Aparo on the Batman and the Outsiders. The Sheldon reference goes, you have to forgive me, guys, but that went over my head. I'm going to have to look that up. But I thought that was a cool little nod. I thought, like, did the writer go to put that in there? Did the artist know, like, oh, I'm going to do this? Does the editor say this would be a cool time to put an Easter egg? I always think about that. But those are all my final thoughts.
No, I'm on board, man. I'm on board with this, and we could break down every single panel of this thing. It's so good. So I'm just ready to see how this thing ends up.
And what's cool about this, I think this is the biggest reveal. This is the biggest reveal in all of this. This isn't the last issue, and it's not even the penultimate issue. Aren't we like halfway through it?
A little over halfway.
To me, yeah. So I think that's the big brain blow up thing, is that we're not done. And that's what I think. I always love that when it's like, oh, well, that was the reveal. But wait a minute. There's still 40 minutes left in the episode. So if that wasn't the ending, whoa, what's next? I love that kind of stuff. So we're going to wrap this up here, Mark. We really appreciate this. You guys enjoy your holidays. Be safe out there. Let us know what you think. We do have this podcast on Apple Podcasts where you can support the show by giving us a 5-star rating. That'd be awesome sauce. And writing a review. We're on Spotify and a lot of the other podcatchers out there. You can write to us at Huntress Podcast on Twitter or at Feathers and Foes on Twitter. Write us a little note on the website, thehuntresspodcast.com. That would be Nito Supremo if you did that. You could email us at rightonnetwork@gmail.com. That is rightonnetwork@gmail.com. So it has been Ashford and Mark. We appreciate your listenership. Bye-bye, everyone.